Some 20 years ago, a couple from New England drove down a dusty North Fork road in Jackson County, not really knowing what was in store. Tom Freestone was an expert in grist mills. Sally Freestone worked with clay. It was a new beginning for them, and fortunately for us, it has not ended. Today, Tom and Sally still drive down North Fork Road. It's not dusty anymore. It's long since been paved. But unlike 20 years ago, Tom and Sally are now fixtures in Jackson County, and their Freestone pottery is known throughout the world. Despite the number of years from our last visit to their home and studio, little has changed. The years have been kind to both of them. But one has to wonder if they're just a little bit surprised that they're still driving down North Fork Road.
Not really, no. We've enjoyed every minute. It's been hard work. As I tell everybody, I was 6'3" when I came here and had fingers on my hand. But we've enjoyed being here. It's wonderful.
Whatever happened to the grist mill? You were an expert in grist mills.
Unfortunately, I had to make a choice. I had to get involved with pottery, with Sally, or carry on with the grist mills, consulting.
There is one major difference in the studio these days. Tom is much more actively involved in making pottery than he was a few years ago. And this is the reason why.
He didn't want to learn to throw. It takes 7 years to get good when you're throwing, really. But he wanted to be able to produce pottery, too. Not just make the clay or do the glazing or whatever. So he redeveloped a whole different way of making pottery for him. It's not really different, it's as old as the Roman times. But it's called jiggering and jollying. And it does involve molds, which he created himself. It's a mechanical way of throwing. He makes all the plates, which for me are just so boring to make. And they all stack together so beautifully, straight and even, and I just finish them by hand and put the verses on them.
Now, for a pottery purist, isn't that a little sacrilegious?
To me, it was sacrilege in the beginning, and I was very stiff-necked about it. But I began to get arthritis, and I began to realize that who am I to think I can do all this myself? And Tom was very persuasive. It took him 3 years to convince me that this was a way to go. But yeah, molds, I didn't agree with molds. But I certainly do now, because they're our own patterns, our own designs, and Tom is the lifeblood of this business.
When Freestone pottery was created, it was of a certain design. When you saw it, you knew exactly what it was. And it's much the same today, which could be a two-edged sword, because while people might want what they have, they also might want something different.
I keep making the same design, I think because I love it. I lived as a child in Chester County, Pennsylvania, which is next to Lancaster County, where the Amish and the Mennonites have a huge community. And I was influenced by the so-called hex signs, meaning six-part designs on their barns, and that's where this center design comes from. I do repeat it because it is, I love it. After 30 years of doing it, I'm still not tired of it, and people want it to look the same. Of course, I have evolved. The real thing that's made Freestone Pottery is the scripture. That's the thing that hasn't changed, because scripture doesn't. It's the one thing in this wild, changing world that really remains constant. And Al, we're so interested, Tom and I, in giving children particularly something solid to hold on to. Everything is moving so fast, and if they eat cereal out of their bowl that says, this is a real scripture, it says, and Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. That's in the Bible. How terrific. And we just write it around the edge of the bowl.
I think our baby plate is really snowballed. Hardly a week goes by unless we get an order or two all over the country. Amazing, I started the baby plate off because I had one as a kid. I remember my mother then as a baby with the plate, A, B, C. It took a long time for people to realize, but now there must be millions of kids out there that want them.
We first met Tom and Sally Freestone about 20 years ago, and at that time we discovered Freestone Pottery. Because of that, one would get the feeling that since they've been around so long, everyone knows about Freestone Pottery. But they realize that their work touches a new life nearly every day, and that's what keeps them going.
Whenever we're feeling down, Tom and I, either of us, we have a scrapbook full of wonderful, wonderful letters and emails from so many people who are it just makes us feel very humble and honestly so good to read these things. It has made a difference. We've even made burial urns for several people, for cremation. It means an awful lot, and we are very grateful that we can help people in times of joy and in times of sorrow, to celebrate and, these times. And that is what a real potter's job is to make a connection between the realness of this world that we all live in and the invisible world, God's world. We try to honor Him in everything we do. And people feel that and are satisfied and happy, and they keep coming back, which is great.